But, Matty, we need to do our snap judgments for round 6 so far. Snap fitness for the feeling. The Storm started, they came out of the gates and they defeat the Roosters 28 points to 8. Couple of questions for you here, snap judgment-wise. Nick Meaney, what do they do with him when Ryan Papenhuyzen returns? And is Cameron Munster just the best ad-lib footballer in the comp at the moment?
Oh, the first one with Meaney, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Like Meaney he'll go back and look to nail down that 14 position or a possibility there, but it's just one of those unfortunate things. I mean, the first thing, Matty, Papenhuyzen, Paps has got to get back. At the moment, we don't know exactly where it's at. They keep delaying his return. Munster, is he? Yeah, he is. He's the best. He's the best ad-lib player. It's the guy who is invaluable to Munster at the moment is Harry Grant, because both Jerome Hughes and Cameron Munster are primarily runners of the football. And so watching Grant play the other night and watching him play over the last few weeks, he's playing a lot more a direction-based role, playing a little bit of halfback like Cameron Smith would do, and that just takes so much pressure off Munster. Munster has, I've talked to a few people about this, right? And whenever I bring it up to Queenslanders, they shoot me down immediately. I say, when it comes to big games, I said, where do you put Munster in relation to? And just as I'm about to say Wally, they go, don't do it. Don't do it. It's like Wally is, as we know, the godlike figure up there. But really, when you talk about big game experience, big game footballers, and you're going to talk about the likes of Wally Lewis and Alan Langer and the Jonathan Thurstons and the Darren Lockies, Munster has to be in that absolute elite group. In fact, I'll say this. I think Munster has played in some Queensland Origin sides that were far weaker than the sides that Wally and Alf and Jonathan Thurston Lockyer played in. And yet he's got him home on the back of man of the match performances. He's a fantastic player, and I love the fact that Cliffy, I used to be always envious of Cliffy Lyons, Matty, because Cliffy could throw 5 bad balls in a row and he couldn't care less. He just shook them off. Munster's the same. It doesn't worry him. He can throw a couple of intercepts and he just gets on with it. He has, when it comes to football, he has no conscience, which is it's a good way to be.
Well, I was just thinking of Dory in Finding Nemo. He's got no memory of the bad ones, which you've got to have, but he can just make things happen. So too can Latrell Mitchell, obviously. 150th game there, and he scores 3 tries as the Bunnies put 50 past the Bulldogs on Friday. But Josh Addo-Carr, syndesmosis injury, your snap judgment on that match?
Well, look, on South Sydney, what really encouraged me in the first set of 6 was watching Cameron Murray take the ball and give it a clever little inside pass to Cody Walker, which drew a penalty. When Cody Walker is looking to drill holes through the centre of the field, that tells me South Sydney are on and they got their focus right. South Sydney, regardless of their attacking talent going down that left and what's progressing on the right off Lockie Ilias, when they are on song, they are drilling holes through the middle, and Damien Cook is the focal point, and everybody feeds off that. And that's I think a really crucial thing for South Sydney going forward, because the really big games you get into, Matty, they are grind and they are arm wrestle, and South Sydney at times finds that difficult to create in that style of football, as opposed to they're brilliant at set starts, repeat sets, penalties. Attacking scrums, they're brilliant. It's being able to be a lethal attacking threat off kick reception. And to do that, Cook's got to be the focal point, and he was. Regardless of all the brilliant things Latrell and Cody and Murray and all those guys did, if you watch it, oftentimes the pebble in the pond that started the reverberations began with Damien Cook.
What does that loss mean for the Doggies?
Well, they have to take a leaf out of the Canberra Raiders book now, and the coach will go away, Cameron Ciraldo, and challenge the team like he did after round 1, and he's going to be after a response. Look, Matty, with teams like the Dogs, you'll see it with the Titans, at times you'll see it through the year with the Knights, is that you're going to have these weeks, right? They are teams that have improved, but they have to be close to 100% to win their football games, and that's just not possible. So what you saw with the Dogs the other day, if they were at about 85, 90%, right, and they cop a flogging. If that's, let's say, for instance, Melbourne are at 80 to 85%, then they probably lose a close one. But other sides haven't got that luxury.
So we're going to take a look at the ladder a little bit later on, Matty, because after 6 rounds, well, with the one match to go, there are 4 teams that you've picked to be in your top 8 that you picked at the start of the season who are currently outside of the 8. So we'll do a little bit of crystal balling there. The Dolphins 32 defeat the Cowboys 22. I reckon we'll continue to be saying, what about those Dolphins and the Wayne Bennett factor? That's just going to keep going and going. But probably the biggest question out of that, snap judgment-wise, is what's happening at the Cowboys?
Cowboys, yeah, Matty. I could give you a couple of examples of that game, visually that will show their lack of care or lack of respect for the football. There was they remind me, the Cowboys, Matty, of a little bit like a heavyweight boxer who just tries to win the fight in the first round by knockout. Right? They've last season they built their game just bit by bit, where along the similar lines of the way the Dolphins play, just grinding out, and they allowed their attacking talent just to be, the bonus on top. This year, they're frivolous with the football, offloads, they make a half break, they force the pass. They've just, and we said this about 3 weeks ago, we'll say it again, they've got to take the dinner suits off and put the overalls on. So
Todd Payten, leading into last season, smashed them to smithereens up there in the heat in Townsville. It was a tough pre-season, and it was based around toughness. It was based around going the distance, being endurance fit, but it was based around defence as well. Yep. I'm going to play this to you. This was on NRL 360 a week or so ago, and he was asked about the difference in pre-season training this time around to last time around.
We didn't take our foot off the gas in terms of our training content. It was a shorter pre-season. Last year's pre-season was 8 or 9 weeks. This year's was less than that. The World Cup guys only got 5 weeks coming back after Christmas. But what I've learnt about our group is we play the way that we train and take some responsibility. I took the foot off the gas in the first three weeks of the competition just purely because of the conditions that we play up here. We've travelled, we had a 6-day turn and taken some kilometres out of sessions, taken some collisions out of sessions and taken some speeds out of sessions. And like I said, just reconfirm that we need to push our guys, make sure that they're doing things when they're not feeling great. And that's what our game's about, doing things under fatigue. And when you're on the back foot and you want to be successful, you've got to get your job done in those moments.
I watched that live, Matty, and it jumped out at me straight away because the players were very adamant that the success of the back of last year was because of the pre-season work that they put in. And Todd Payten there says, look, different pre-season, shorter pre-season, World Cup, get all that. But changed a few little things along the way. How much emphasis do you put on that in the first 6 weeks of the comp?
Matty, look, the World Cup years and years gone by when they had the Kangaroo Tours, the following seasons were strange seasons. It was a very difficult season often for young players who would go away. From experience, every quality season you have as a player is a result of a quality pre-season. And a lot of those young guys, those young up-and-coming guys have been away in World Cups. They had a very short pre-season. And on top of that, Matty, it's to have expectation, a lot of praise, newfound profile. They're tricky. They're really tricky things to take on board and to continue to improve. I'll give you an example. As far as training really tough. The Cowboys are one of those rare teams in the league that have a definite home ground advantage as far as conditions. Canberra back in the day were one of them. You went down there in July, it was freezing. Yeah. The ground was slippery. It was just so different. Cowboys are one of those teams. Now, in the first 10 years they played the Cowboys, right? They struggled. They were always in the bottom few. The big change happened when Billy Johnston went there as a strength and conditioner. And straight away he walked into the gym, he turned the air conditioning off. He smashed the stereo system, teamed them up and said, count your reps. We don't train in air conditioning. We get out there, had them on 100K bike rides. And he knew how to turn the heat and humidity to their advantage. Now, last season, it was a genuine advantage because they trained their asses off. They worked really, really hard. This pre-season, as you said, wasn't as good. It was shorter. You've got all these other factors. I can understand why they've had a tricky start to the season.
They got the Warriors next up. We've touched on the Panthers absolutely thrashing the Seagulls. That first half in Penrith was just an absolute masterclass across the board. The Raiders and the Broncos, of course, on Saturday night. And then yesterday, the two matches yesterday, mate. Titans 20, pull one out of the bag against the Dragons, so a 2-point win. And Toby Sexton's the kind of player that Justin Holbrook, well, he put in there, he said, keep it simple and let's do the job. And whilst that sounds so simple, it paid off.
It absolutely does. We had Sean O'Sullivan on our Sunday night show last night, and of course he's out at the moment with the torn pec. And I asked him, I said, mate, I said, congratulations on how you played until you were injured. You were fantastic. And he said, Matty, he said, Wayne just keeps things so simple for me. He says he walks up to me. He said he walked up to me before every game and he said, Sean, he said, if you think about more than one thing at a time, you're stuffed. That's what he said. And Sean said it was great. He said, I just had a narrowed focus of what I need to do. I really liked Sexton as a player. I've had a conversation with him. He's an intelligent footballer. He played some good football last year. He's got a great short kicking game. But it was his first year in first grade in a side that was struggling. So that was when he went into the team. I was really happy for him, and great to see him get that confidence booster. On the Warriors, Matty, this was what was really interesting to me during that game, and as that they were well below their best, or what we were used to seeing in this early season. What was really interesting, if you go back and watch the game, have a look at Andrew Webster up in the coach's box. He was really unsettled. He was up on his feet. He was agitated. Coaches know when a loss is coming. Right? Yeah. I think he recognised something in his side going to Newcastle that he didn't like, because usually he sits in the box and he's pretty cool and relaxed. He never sat. He was up on his feet. He was pacing around the coach's box. He saw that loss coming.
Maybe that says a little bit more about the Knights at the moment than it does for the others, because if you go back a week earlier and you go out to Mudgee, the opposition coach there had finished in a draw, as we know, but there was a shot of the coach's box, and it was Anthony Seibold and Shane Flanagan, and they were leading at the time, and they knew that something was coming. So there's that steel back in the Knights, so to speak, that makes opposition coaches worried. So our Snap Fitness, Snap Judgements, Snap Fitness has you covered.